to the podcast, episode 48. How y'all doing, people? We back in the building. Act 2 the podcast, episode 48. We are back. It's your boy International Walk.
And it's your girl Tosh, the co-hostess with the mostest.
Yeah, how y'all doing out there? We back. How y'all doing? We hope y'all good out there. We good. We had 48 weeks in a row. So, pat on the back for us for showing up for 48 weeks. Pat on the back to y'all for showing up and watching for 48 weeks. So we appreciate that. You can catch Act 2 the podcast at act2.com. Act2thepodcast.com. Go to the website, check it out. Got everything you need there. And you can also catch us on Google Podcasts. You can catch us on Spotify, Breaker, and Anchor. So you can catch us on all those platforms. And we still hunting down Apple Podcasts.
And YouTube.
We are definitely on YouTube. Can't leave out YouTube. That's been our number one.
Yeah. And follow, if you aren't already, follow and share and repost, some IG stuff. Did y'all complete your challenge last week? Tell a friend. Now, the challenge this week will be tell a friend and then tell them to tell a friend.
So you got to tell 2 friends. Last week you got to tell 1 friend.
No. You tell 1 friend, but you tell them to tell another friend.
Wow. It's like playing fish or the chain game.
Whatever you want to call it. Tell a friend and tell a friend.
Tell a friend and tell a friend. So we again, act2thepodcast.com. Go there, check it out. Spotify, YouTube, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Anchor. We're there. We're waiting for you. Come listen, come watch, check us out. Dope content, dope conversations. How you doing?
I'm good. I seen someone say they were feeling exuberant today. And I was like, wow, that's a good therapy word. Because, in therapy, when you say, how are you? You say, oh, I feel okay. And that's not really an emotion.
Right. Okay.
I don't feel exuberant, though. But I just thought, that's a good word I'm going to keep in mind.
I don't think I've ever told myself I feel exuberant. I felt spectacular. I felt awesome. But exuberant?
Exuberant.
That's like I got energy.
I was about to say, you feel good, you're energized.
Not only is my mental right, I want to do some shit.
I don't feel exuberant, great. But I feel serene.
So, how are you?
Serenity now. If you're not a Seinfeld fan, then you probably won't get that. But
you
Serenity now.
It's a shame. Rest in peace to Jerry Stiller.
Oh yeah.
He did.
He's dead. Yeah.
No, dead for real. I'm not making it up.
Let me just tell y'all real fast why he has to make a point to let me know that he's not making it up.
Oh, I don't make it up.
Well,
I might misrepresent sometime, but I don't make it up.
Through our life together, there have been multiple, okay? It hasn't happened once. It hasn't happened twice. It hasn't happened 3 times. I can't quantify it, but I'll say maybe 10. If I ask him about somebody, it first started with Michael from The Good Times. When I tell you, for years, we were just having a random conversation. I don't even know how, but whatever. I'm like, oh, Michael, I haven't seen him in anything. So, and he's like, yeah, he died. I was like, really? Damn, Michael Evans, little Black Panther, Mike.
Right on.
Yeah, he died.
Solid.
And I just took him at his word for it. Never looked it up. And this was, y'all, we've been in this for some time now. So not to say the internet wasn't out, but it wasn't as readily available in phones and stuff as it is now. But I never even thought to fact check, because why would somebody tell you somebody's dead unless they really know, right? So fast forward, years go by. There was a BET Awards show.
And Michael was on it.
And Good Times, the cast from Good Times came out, I think, except for Florida, Estelle Roll, because she had passed by that time, I think. They came out to I don't know if they was getting award, presenting award, whatever. And it was Michael is on the stage. He's alive.
Ralph Carter.
He's
That's his name.
Oh, I thought he was dead. But when I tell you, there was maybe a 10-year time frame where in my head, Michael was dead. I mean, and it was just damn, that's sad. He died. I hope I never repeated that to anybody.
But you had already got through your grieving process of the celebrity. 10 years. I mean,
I hadn't really grieved about it. I probably grieved over it at that moment and was like, oh, that's sad, and went on.
That's neither here nor
But
there.
that's why he has to give that caveat to say, I'm not lying, like he's really dead. Because he'll like, I can't take his word for it when he tells me like a celebrity. I don't know if it's happening with real life people.
No, it hasn't. How are you?
I'm feeling,
No. How are you?
I'm not feeling my best physically.
Right,
I've been dealing with some health issues. But I feel okay. I feel
health issues. People think you dying.
No, I'm
got
not.
A little bit of stomach issues. That's all.
Yeah, stomach issues. I ain't dying. Like,
motherfuckers had you on your deathbed, babe.
No. Like, pray for me. I mean, we
yeah,
all need
say
prayer.
some prayers, but
yeah.
We just got a little stomach issues.
So yeah, that has me not feeling exuberant.
Right.
But I'm feeling blessed. My mind is a little.
Luckily,
worried.
physical isn't in here. So
I know, yeah.
What's your mental like?
But it's impacting my mental a little bit because a little stress. You want to be okay,
right?
And I'm not the type of person. I'm probably on the other side of being optimistic when things happen, like health wise, where my mind just goes to, oh, I'm gonna be all right. My baby worries about me extremely, which I get it. So I'm not feeling bad mentally because
I don't think you do get it. I don't think you realize how much I love and care about you.
Yeah, but overall, I would say I'm probably a 7.
7 on the mental side.
Yeah.
I didn't do the finances.
Finances are good. Finances, I'm gonna say a 9.
Finances is a 9. We are blessed to go multiple weeks. And sometimes we double up in our finance. Don't you touch my leg.
I'm not touching your leg. I'm scratching my leg.
Work.
Work is an 8. I'm gonna say it's an 8 because I'm gonna manifest an 8.
Work's an 8 because you're gonna manifest an 8. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got an 8 for the work, 9 for the finance people, and 7 for the mental. We gonna get them numbers up a little bit.
Yeah. How are you?
I am.
No. How are you?
You know how we anticipating it, and I can never tell when you're going to do it.
Of course. You know why?
Why?
Because I'm the co-hostess with the mostest.
Now that was so corny. This is probably why y'all like her, because she corny as hell. Like that was so corny, like something that a person would do when the camera's on them, like so corny.
No, really, for real. How are you?
I am. What?
Well, overall, just kind of give me a rundown. Mentally, where are you?
Mentally, I'm a 7 because I'm extremely worried about you. And again, my baby ain't dying.
Oh, so you want to make the people feel worried?
No, it's not like that. It's just she's my heart and she's my number one. And when she hurts, I hurt. Or when something's wrong with her, something's wrong with me. So that's the connection. You don't need to know no more than that.
I understand. How's work?
Work is a 9. Work's a 9. I think it's going well.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's
works good.
And how's finances?
Finances is an 8. They was a 7 last week. They bumped
so it's
up
coming
to
up.
Yeah,
it's coming up. It's coming up. Yeah.
So I'm good with that. So what was my mental?
You said your mental was a 7.
And my finances was an 8.
Yeah.
And work was
a 9.
Was a
no,
9. So I got a 7, 8, 9.
Me too. I had a 7, 8, 9.
But you had it the other way. You had an 8, 9, 7.
Okay. Yeah.
You got it.
Got it.
All
you
right.
got it. Yeah.
Wows and woes.
I'm gonna start with my woe. As I said, going through some health issues and stuff. And I'll tell y'all, I mean, I'll be a little bit transparent and not to say like I'm hiding anything, but just because everything ain't everybody's business. But I did have to go to the ER over the weekend, and I'm okay. But what I will say was a woe for me was the impact that COVID has had on society, society as a whole. And I guess we don't really realize it until we look at different segments of life. Like we realize with the food supply chain, if you've been going to the supermarket and like so many things being out of stock, the trickle-down effect that has had. If you've called a call center in any industry in the world, you realize the impact it's had there. So, and different things. If your kids had to catch a school bus or previously did, we realized the impact there.
So the medical field has been impacted.
The medical field has been impacted. First of all, I will say, and y'all can judge me if you want, I don't care. The first time I went to the ER, I left because as soon as I got to the door, they told me he couldn't come in. Nope. And, in therapy, we talk about your fight, flight, freeze. And now what's the new one she said? Okay, your fight, or your... why can't I say
your fight or flight?
Your fight or flight or freeze. Okay, that's what it is. And that moment, flight, like in my mind, I just got nervous, scared, like he's my protector. And God forbid if it's something wrong with me, the doctors need to do what they need to do, but I need my baby there. And in my mind, I just had not prepared myself. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. I've had some, I'm dealing with some GI stuff, and I've had some medical history in the past. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. All I knew, they said he couldn't come in. I was like, I'm not coming in here. I turned around, was like, I'm not coming. I'm not staying here. Let's go. He was looking, I think I was out the door before him, and he was behind me. I went right past him, was like, let's go. I'm not doing that. And don't get me wrong, I'm a grown woman. I know how to be an independent woman. I'm very well versed in healthcare, working in the health insurance industry. I can do all that. But when it comes to emotional support, family support, loved ones, someone being an advocate. And I feel sorry for those. I applaud those people who go about life handling their business, who may not have a loved one to support them. But going to the hospital, having to deal with medical issues, if you have someone to accompany you, an advocate, I know how to speak up for myself, and my doctors know. I will ask everything. But he may have some questions that I didn't think of.
When we do go to the hospital, I got lots of questions, and you got to have an advocate. You got to have somebody there, and also that's something that we deal with, the separation anxiety, like that hit us, and we was like, our fight or flight response kicked in, and then we, I guess, got our tools and was like, okay, this is something. I'm not finished.
This was my woe moment.
I'm not finished saying what I'm saying,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
So this was something that we had to we have to get over this and do what we have to do.
Right.
So we actually, eventually went back, and then you had to, go see the doctors or whatever.
Right, and I think you're absolutely right. I think that's what it was. Had I gone into the situation knowing that, I may have been able to mentally prepare myself, but it was like being thrown into a situation that wasn't comfortable. Even though eventually I did it, I had to do it, it still wasn't comfortable. So being forced, or thinking that I was going to be forced into that situation without preparation, just didn't sit well with me. But let me fast forward about the full woe moment. Being in the hospital, seeing the conditions, it's so contradictory, and I know medical professionals, I hope they're doing their best, but there was an old man that came in and said he was there because he thought he had COVID. Okay, I'm in the waiting room, he's sitting directly across from me, so when I get up and I go to the back, because if this man is here because he thinks he has COVID, why isn't he in a separate area? It's it was such an uncomfortable feeling. Then when I get to the back, literally the halls are lined with beds. There's rooms. They use some criteria to determine, because I was placed right next to the nurse's station, thank God. They use some criteria to determine, it was like, oh, is this person hallway appropriate, or do they need a room? So they use some criteria to determine who would get a room and who wouldn't. But literally, your room or your bed spot was determined by, they're like, oh, you can put her in bed H7. You can put that person in hallway P, bed 6. And it was like, oh my God, this is what our healthcare industry has come to. So that was my whoa moment. It was, and I have great insurance. They treated me well once I got care, but it was just such an eye opener. We haven't been to a hospital since before 2000, since 2019. And you know what? And talking to a friend who was very sick, a little while back, she was saying, That's part of the reason why she didn't go to the hospital, is because the fear of COVID, something happening, her contracting COVID, dying or something, and they blame, like, just anything happening. Like, people are really afraid of hospitals right now. And you think to yourself, if you're really sick and you're afraid to go to the hospital, like, are people dying because of this? Or just not getting the proper care, not getting the proper care timely. Like, you really feeling sick and you wait too long, and because of your fear. So that was my wow. My wow is just simply, I'm alive. I'm not in the best of health at this moment, but I'm breathing, walking, talking, thinking on my own, and I'm grateful for that.
Kept that slim.
Well, because I knew you was gonna be looking at me.
Christ,
well,
I'm not mean. It's a fair exchange. It's your wow. It's your wow.
What's your wow and wow?
My wow is I'm done in Cherry Hill, and I'm tired of working in that place, so I won't have to work there no more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a simple wow for me.
Need a hair wash?
Probably. I'm due for a hairdo. Probably due for a hairdo. But that's my wow. I'm done in Cherry Hill. Don't have to go back to that building no more. Don't have to deal with the maintenance man no more. Yeah, that was weighing on me. That was probably bringing work down a number.
Can I tell you something though? You're
Sure.
always excited about a new job, but it's almost like you have a little bit of work ADD. Like, after a while, it's like, I'm over it. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like, you need long-term jobs for you as, like, nah.
The Arsenal did it to me. Being there for 3 years, that was like, yeah, that did it to me. I need to move every 8 weeks.
Yeah. What's your woe?
Just being worried about you.
I knew that.
You knew that?
Yeah. I knew you were gonna say that.
Just being worried about you. Yeah. I don't want to be emotional, but yeah, I just be worried about you. Sometimes I feel like you can be a little stubborn sometimes. Sometimes I feel like you can be a little hard-headed. And I know I'm not a doctor, but sometimes I don't think you really know how in tune I am with you. And sometimes I know you better than you know yourself. And, yeah, so I just be worried, stressed.
I know, and when you get stressed, we've said before, you show, even though you've softened up some, you used to be, okay, you show love through tough love. Now, you've gotten better where it's not always tough love, but when people have moments of, I don't want to say weakness, but vulnerability, whether they're not feeling well, whether they're not whatever it is, your way of picking them up, making them feel better, making them perform better, making them feel better if they're going through something mentally, you have like this tough love spirit about you. Like, come on, get up. Let's do this. Like, or if somebody's, come on, get it together, shake it off. You can do it. Like, that's how you are. And I think because of your stress, that's how it manifests itself, where it's like, okay, this person is in a sunken place and you're up here, and it's like you want to pull them up with you. And it's not a bad thing.
It's come from experience, because I won't approach anybody like that with tough love or give anybody tough love if I don't love them or care a great deal about them. So it comes from a place of experience. Like, I won't speak on something that I don't have experience with. And things for me is about information. So if you have information, then you have options. And that's how I look at it. Even if you're sick, like, yeah, you feel like shit, but, I can dwell in that for a minute if I want to, just because I feel like shit. Or, maybe I can get up and move around and maybe that'll help. Mm-hmm. So that's all I'm saying. Everybody got options. Not saying if you're not sick as a dog, you can't be bedridden, because you are. I mean, it just is what it is. But if that's not the case, then,
Right.
Let's just.
And again, I will say you're getting better, because he used to be the type of person, like, if I'm not feeling well and I'm tired, and sometimes fatigue is a symptom, and you have to acknowledge and take care of it, meaning your body is telling you, I need rest. He's not a resting person. I don't know how to say that. He'll be like, why you sleep? Like, I'm sick. Or maybe I'm not like sick, like coughing, throwing up all that, but like your body sometimes tells you. He's gotten much better in that, because before it used to be like, you sleep again.
Because if we being totally honest, I mean, don't get me wrong, she works her ass off, and I know she's mentally tired. And I come home sometime, I'm physically tired because my job is physical. But also, behind the scenes, my wife is lazy. And we've known this since she was a little girl. She's been lazy.
I don't contest it.
So that's neat, but I say that to make a point, not to like to throw a shot at her, but she can sleep. If we go to bed at 11 o'clock at night, let's just say we fall asleep at 11 o'clock. She can wake up at 10 o'clock. So that's 11 hours of sleep. She can make me breakfast, sit down, fuck around on her phone for an hour, and then she can take a nap at 1 o'clock. And it's like, who can sleep for 11 hours, wake up for 60 minutes, and then take another nap? So me, I don't vibe like that. She can do that. And sometimes it's like, damn, it's not like I'm saying, babe, you can't get no rest, because I just know you got 11 hours.
But what he felt,
it's not like you had 2 hours of sleep and you need a nap, then I wouldn't bother you.
Well,
but I'm like, she just had 11 hours. She been up for an hour. She ain't even dressed yet, and she need a nap.
I'm not contesting. You're absolutely right, and I don't see nothing wrong with it.
It don't make you a bad person, but I see something wrong with it. But
let's also acknowledge this. Let you be like, babe, let's go on a hike. We gotta get up at 7 tomorrow and be dressed and ready. You know I'm down for that too.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm down for the cause if there's a cause. But let's also remember, our lives and our lives are very routine. Mm-hmm. So, you know, Monday through Friday, I'm up at 4:15, making sure my baby got breakfast and lunch to go out the door for work. I go back to sleep. Probably get, depending on what I got to do that day, 2 to 3 hours. 2 to 3 hours more sleep. So my sleep is broken. All right, then I'm up for work, you know, doing everything I need to do during the day. And then we usually go to bed, like, TV is off, like, no later than 10:30. Like, I don't know when the last time we seen 11 o'clock news. Mm-hmm. So I'm sleeping straight and I'm a fast sleeper. I'm not one. Insomnia ain't never been my problem.
So like, from 11 o'clock till 4 o'clock.
That's 5 hours.
Right.
And then my sleep is broken.
But what's the significance of sleep broken? Because it's like you go to the bathroom, your sleep is broken.
But not the same.
And this is a shot. Sometimes you sleep making lunch, making food. Sometimes I get some tuna fish with no crackers. Sometimes I get one piece of bread. Sometimes I get a sandwich with 3 slices of bread. So let's not act like you wide awake there.
But it's a difference in going to the bathroom where you're like sleepwalking, going to the bathroom, washing your hands, getting back in the bed, then up, lights on, in the refrigerator, making coffee, making oatmeal,
you're sleeping. Yeah, I appreciate.
So I mean, so I say that to say that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Now in our life, we have therapy sessions on Saturday. So, but I mean, my sleep time really hasn't been impacted. Saturday, I usually go to sleep pretty late. I probably go to bed like 2 o'clock. You know, we're working on Act 2 things. So between like 1 a.m. and first of all, date night is Friday. That's every week, regardless. We're out, we're doing our thing. We usually get home like midnight or so, doing Act 2 stuff. I'll probably go to sleep like 2 o'clock, and then I'm up like 9. And then on Sunday, same thing. So it's not. I'm not really going to sleep at 10 o'clock on a Saturday.
No.
But again, I'm not contesting what he's saying. I will sleep for 12 hours.
Most people walking around do a hard 6. They're happy with a hard 6. Most people are functioning out there in the world on a hard 6.
Since time immemorial, they told us you need 8.
Hold on. If you can go 9 hours on a Saturday, that's good. I'm up at 7:30, 7:45 on a Saturday. We go to sleep at the same time holding each other.
You're lying. Babe, we go to bed at the same time.
On a Sunday. No, we go to sleep Saturday night. You're not doing Act 2 stuff. So when we go to sleep Saturday night, we go to sleep at the same time. And we wake up. I wake up probably 7:45. You wake up 9:30. Okay. And you have to set your alarm for that.
That's my church lady. One moment, please. Okay, we go to bed together. we don't go to sleep together, babe. If we go to bed, let's just say we go to bed at 11 o'clock Saturday night, right? Just hypothetical. We go to bed at 11 o'clock. We're watching TV. We're in the bed, but we're watching TV. If we go to bed at 11, he sleep by 11:15. I'm probably sleep by like 1:15. So we go to bed together, but we don't go to sleep together. Unless I put him to sleep, then it's a little different. So, all right.
On to the conversation. Everybody out there has been watching the Verzus and the singer against the singer and old school against new school and, you know, hip hop, all the Versus stuff, Swiss Beats and Timbalands. And it's good. It's a good show. You know, it's good to see.
I missed a few, but I've seen some that were great.
Yeah, it's good to see the Versus. This conversation is going to be about generation Versus. So just follow me for a little bit. Let me wet my beak. Because you know, I had to speak for a minute. So we're going to talk about generational Versus. And there's a few generations that came before us. There's a few generations that came after us. And we're going to speak about our generation because guess what? We in it. And we the people who can talk about it. So the lost generation was the first generation in the American society. And they are also known as generation of 1914 in Europe. It's a term originating from Gertrude Stein to describe those who fought in World War I. The lost generation is defined as the cohort born between 1883 and 1900. They came of age during World War I in the roaring 20s. The last surviving person who was known to have been of the lost generation's birth period died in 2018.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Why does it start at, what about the people that, I'm sorry, what about the people that was before that? Are they just not labeled as any, I mean, because they were people.
Not labeled as a generation.
Oh, okay. I'm like, wait a minute. It was people before 1883. You missed, okay, this is what I was thinking in my mind, right? And I know we don't believe in the whole Christopher Columbus thing. It's a farce. But I remember the little song. Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean. Wait, in 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue. So I'm like, did people come here in 18? I'm like, no, they came in 1492.
All right, so we got right. Lost generation.
I'm clear.
Lost generation is 1883 to 1900.
Okay.
Then we got what's known as the greatest generation. Okay, these are the greatest generation of people, and this is where Margaretta Lillian Deeds was born. My nana. This is also this called the GI generation. It includes vets who fought in World War II, born from 1901 to 1927. Oh. The older GIs came of age in the roaring 20s. The younger GIs came of age in the Great Depression and World War II. All right?
Okay.
Then we have the silent generation, known as the lucky few. These people were a part of the Great Depression in the 30s, and the cohort, and they came of age in the post-World War II. They were born from 1928 to 1945.
That's my Shirley and Jimmy.
These people fought in the Korean War and the Vietnam War. Bam. Now we got baby boomers, right?
Wait a minute. In the Vietnam War. Okay, so that's very significant because we know there's a lot of trauma that a lot of our elderly men, specifically in the hood, from the Vietnam War. Okay.
I think in the Vietnam War, a black lieutenant, his lifespan was 17 seconds. So yeah, the trauma was bad then. Then after that generation, we got the baby boomers, y'all. And these are like, if you're our age, this is our parents, okay? So they were born following World War II. Their parents fought in Vietnam. This group of people had the largest birth rate in U.S. history, the largest cohort in demographic U.S. history. More babies were born in that time period than ever. And they came of age during like the 60s, and the younger boomers came in the years of the early 70s, in the malaise years of the 70s. But they had the biggest birth rate, so it was more of them than anybody.
It makes you think it was more of them then later generations did they have more babies? But okay.
Right. So let me just go through these and then we'll get back to them. Then we got Gen X. Okay, that's us, and that's the cohort following the baby boomers born between 65 and 1980. You just made it. You almost was like not in my generation.
Well, I actually was born in 81.
Oh, then you're not in it then. That's right. I thought you was born in 80.
No,
so,
I'm putting myself in it. I'm Gen X.
So
I'm in it.
Gen X is the cohort following baby boomers born between 65 and 1980. This was the biggest drop in birth rates in U.S. history. So
that negates my previous point.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the baby boomers was the biggest to have babies, and we were the ones.
No, the baby boomers was the biggest. Wait, the baby boomers was the biggest people to be born?
Yes.
Or to have to be born. Okay. But then they had the least amount of babies.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So
you know why? Because they probably was out there in Woodstock snorting all that cocaine.
So that was Gen X, right? Then we got the millennials, known as Gen Y. They grew up around the third millennial. They're born between, that was the advantage of them. They grew up around the third millennial. Born it from 1981 to 1996. The millennials surpassed the baby boomers in births. So it was 71.6 million baby boomers that was born in that time frame, and 72.1 millennials born in their time frame.
You know what though? That makes sense because even though your mom was a baby boomer and then you were Gen X, my mom was also a baby boomer, but my sisters and I, based on those numbers, are all Gen Ys. So they did have babies, just some of their babies came later. Yep. Okay.
Then we have Generation Z. These are the group of people succeeding millennials born from 97 to 2012. This is my daughter and most of our kids. Then we got Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha is the last generation that we're living in. I mean, not living in, but that is here after us, our little kids.
Born after 2012.
Yeah, succeeding Gen Z. That's Mason. That's the first whole generation to be born entirely in the 21st century. So as of 2015, 2.5 million people born around the world are Gen Alpha, is expected to reach 2 billion by 2025. So those are the generations, right?
I worry about Gen Alpha. Their life is completely different.
Yeah, it is.
Even though us as Gen Y, our life was completely different from you guys experienced, you had the carryover into Gen Y, but for our parents, it's, completely different.
So I bring these up to say, let's do a generation, a versus, and that's just a play on words because I'm not trying to single nobody out or say who was the worst or bad generation, but I'm in this generation and I'm of the Gen Y, and
no, you're of the Gen X.
I'm of the Gen X. I'm sorry. We're of the Gen X generation. So our parents were the baby boomers, and let's trace the trauma is where I'm going.
Oh wow, that took a turn.
So
I did not know that's where you were going.
Trace the trauma to see where it's going with this. Now, so there's a lot to say about baby boomers, how they were the biggest people, the biggest group of people that was born, and as far as trauma that we think that we're going to counseling for stuff that comes from our childhood and things that we learned as we grew up, stuff that we didn't have the language for when we were kids, and the stuff that we went through not knowing it was trauma then, but it's trauma now. So just to say a few things, baby boomers, not all, some didn't listen to their kids. They didn't say I love you enough. You couldn't disagree with your parents because it was a sign of disrespect. It was not a lot of physical touch. These are the people who hid predators in the families. They shunned any type of therapy. This group of people was less educated. They didn't save. They didn't own houses. Inappropriate behavior was tolerated within the family, whether it be a mother or a father or anything like that. And I'm not saying that didn't happen in any of the other generations. I don't know. But I'm speaking about my parents and the stuff that I carry in this generation. But where do you think that stuff stemmed from? Do you think those things I just ran off stems from the baby boomer, those people, our parents, that generation? Or do you think it came from the generation before that, which is called the greatest generation, where it was Nana? Yeah.
No, you're missing one in between. What was after Nana?
It was boom, 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 boom.
Because you said Nana, and then you had something else. The silent generation.
Yeah, okay, so they was in between.
So I think, from listening to what you're saying, it sounds to me, if I put on my psychologist hat, can you see it?
So what I'm saying, I guess the question, I didn't get the question out. The stuff that we go through, that we recognize as trauma today, the stuff that we try to get help for and have the language to articulate. Mm-hmm. Do you think that our parents knew what that was when they were young and didn't have the language? Or do you think their moms did the same way to them as they did to us?
I absolutely think that. And what a couple things that you mentioned about the silent generation, just the naming of itself, the silent generation.
Right.
That was a generation that experienced some hard things in life.
Depression.
The Great Depression.
6 cents get you a week's worth of groceries.
The Vietnam War, families being torn apart, fathers coming back home if they made it back home and
not
being
really being there,
completely different. You know, having that military figure in the house, or that unstable father figure in the house. We know that a lot of drugs were introduced, and I can't speak for white families because I don't know what the impact was for them. I don't have any long-term. I don't have any white friends or any long-term. Know any white people to know what their family history is. So speaking from a black perspective, we know that was around the time that drugs started hitting the hood. Not the crack epidemic, we know that was later, but around that time, just because men being completely messed up from the war. So you think about that, and then they have all these kids.
Heroin, that was the drug of choice back then.
Yeah, so then they have all these kids. So that generation is having now let's also, some of the baby boomers didn't all come, because I think that's one of the misnomers that we have to make sure. Every generation wasn't birthed from the generation immediately before them. Right.
It's an overlap.
Right, because Nana's generation, the baby boomers. Yeah. In some cases. But so when you think about the dynamic.
And this doesn't mean all of them from that era. We're talking about just some people. And obviously we know some people because we went through some shit. But
of course. But so when you just think about the dynamics of those situations, then you had in the baby boomer generation, that very free-spirited, free-minded kind of finding your path, finding your way kind of thing. I can imagine it being that detachment from their children. Mm-hmm. So that's why when, that next generation, the baby boomers, when they had children, it was kind of still trickled down.
So, what do you know about your grandmother as a child? Like, did you know if she had a rough childhood? Do you know if she had a happy childhood? Do you know if her mom told her she loved her a lot, where she might not have told her daughter she loved her? Like those things. Like, why didn't listen to kids? So, why didn't they do those things? Why didn't they say I love you a lot? Why was disagreeing with your parents a sign of disrespect?
Well, another thing before I say that, when you mention about them not in therapy and stuff like that, we also have to think about those two generations you mentioned, the greatest, which experienced the Depression, and then the silent generation, which experienced Vietnam and all of those things. A lot of that caused by the government. So their sense of people in power, like therapists and stuff like that, they shunned away. They didn't have that trust, especially coming from our black communities. Right. And so when you talk about my grandmother's childhood, no, and I don't know anything bad, and it's partly because of the things that you spoke about. You didn't talk bad about families. Like, I know good stuff, fun stories, about how they used to, run the streets, sneak out the house, have little boys. My grandma used to, roll with the motorcycle gang, but nobody ever sat and told the horror stories. If there were some, I don't want to imply that there were, but if there were some, nobody ever sat and told that stuff because they probably suppressed that stuff in their mind, or it was that, come from that mentality of, don't air your dirty laundry, So I think that was just really it. So I never knew anything negative. I knew a pattern that was in my family where a lot of women, which still goes on in today's society, where like grandparents were raising their parents' children, and that kind of trickled down through generations. And I'm talking about.
So there's a lot of that in your family.
Well, it was then, not today.
No, we're talking about then.
Well, yeah. So that's what I'm saying, and I'm talking about my grandma, great grandma, great grandma. So I'm talking about back to my great grandma was like one of the women who she's referred to as mama in our family, and she like raised just about everybody's kids. Right. I knew it was a lot of that going on, but even then it wasn't a negative connotation. As an adult, you start to think like, well, damn, why was she raising everybody's kids? Right. But it was never it was all talked about in love, how loving she was and how she took care of everybody. She was strict, but it was never any negative talk of like, yeah, such and such left her kids here, or such and such didn't take care of her kids.
And that's how it was for me. And I guess it's the opposite because, as loving and as kind and as graceful as my grandmother was, like she didn't raise any of her kids. But that wasn't like a thing that was talked about her, like, she ain't raised her kids and nothing like that. It's something that you just learn as you got older.
And you realize that's weird.
Yeah, and you was like, damn, like you, like if somebody was to say, like, if it's like, say if your mom or her or Shirley's kids was to say, she didn't say she loved me enough. When you think about her as a grandmother, you think to yourself, damn, how the fuck could that, like she was so loving and we loved her so much as grandkids. How could she? But you know what they say, like the best grandmas were the shittiest parents.
But I will say,
because you have to, it's like you getting it a second time to do it.
But yeah, that's true. And also, I will say something that you mentioned, which is true. My grandma was to me like the best person in the world. But I can't think of her she wasn't like a doting. She cared for everybody. She took care of everybody. She was a place of solace. But she wasn't like a lovey, verbal, kissy, I love you type of person. But you
verbally
knew
or
no,
physically?
Either.
Okay.
Either. Like I can't think of her just saying like I love you, have a good day.
But I love you is an action word. So
that's what I'm saying. So to hear if that was verbalized from my mom and her siblings to say our mom didn't say I love you, I'll be like, you know what? You're right. I never heard her say that. But she showed it at least to her grandkids. So I guess in that point, that may be part of like their makeup during that time. And that may come down through generations where.
So when a kid is not feel like when we didn't feel right or something, we was, feeling uneasy about something, we was never asked, why do you feel like that? Or what's your feelings about that? Now today, you would ask a kid that, knowing how much that would help the kid. Now having that information, like why was they doing that? Why was they telling us like if you got a beating and you was crying, it hurt. You had some emotion to show. Why was it shut up before I give you something to cry for? Like why were they like that? Like, and do you think that your grandma, my grandma, do you think that their childhood was like that?
Yeah, probably so. And the thing is this, one thing we said, we have tools now to use because we're open to therapy. Right. We're not afraid of.
And I know it wasn't a bunch of resources like that when Nana was 20 years old.
But I mean, but when you think about it, psychology has been around since time immemorial. But that wasn't something that they would have ever pursued, or to question their parenting, or to think, oh, I need help, or I need to talk to somebody about my emotions. So they probably didn't recognize the wrong or the misdirection that they were given in their actions, because they didn't have those tools. They weren't open to receiving those tools. They weren't seeking out those tools. It just wasn't available. But I don't think that it's complete. Of course, nothing applies to everyone. I think it was more so a cultural thing than just a generational thing. Because again, we can only speak from our personal perspectives, and we can only speak from the Black perspective. Where in other families, Black or not, white or not, there may have been different experiences. So I think it was more so nurture. It came from nurture than nature. Like, I don't think they were born that way.
So
I think it was just a generational thing.
The childhood, the traumas, like, what do you think the childhood traumas your grandma had? Like, what do you think Shirley was going through from 5 to 15?
You know what?
Like,
I can't even.
You haven't heard stories, or you have no idea. You never conversated with her about it.
I'm not about like bad. I mean, it
not
wasn't
bad stuff. Because like I know, like my nana liked to party. Like she used to go out and be with her friends.
Right.
And go
So
to
I
church
think,
on
but
Sunday.
you think that's like teenage years enough?
Right.
I never really asked and of course, in hindsight, I wish I had my grandmama around at 40 to know the things that I wanted to ask her. You know, she died when I was 23. So I never asked about those things. I used to love, even to this day, I love looking at old pictures and just more so wanting to know who people were. But I never really asked those questions to find out like what was life like.
And I never really had those conversations with Nana either, like on a personal level. But I've heard stories over the years of, you know, she was like just like to be out and party and enjoy herself and be with her girlfriends, and that was like what she did until.
I think my grandma was fresh though.
But I mean, she was fresh. She had 5 kids, but you know, she liked to be out and party, have fun, do her thing. But she works, you know, for a place for 30 years, so she wasn't like a lady of the night or some shit.
And
like
you know
that.
what? That's true. And that was one thing about my grandma. I knew that.
Hold on, now I say that to say, why didn't their kids do this? Like, their kids was the biggest group of people on welfare, and that was when the Section 8 the Section 8 stuff, it started happening in the early 70s and all that kind of stuff. Like, why didn't they own houses and save money like their parents did? Well, so it's not like they couldn't say, like my mom saw her mom own a house. Your mom, she probably saw her mom own her house. Like, what about that they didn't take with them to say, okay, this is what you're supposed to do?
Well, again, during that baby boomer stage, that baby boomer period of time, you had that, you know, finding your freedom kind of, you know, power to the people, doing your own thing. And also we have to think, yes, they saw their parents do it, like my grandparents own their house, but was it taught to them? Like, just because you saw it, did you really know what was going on?
But
was it taught?
Yeah,
you know,
right.
was it
not
taught
necessarily taught to you? I'm just looking like you saw it. You emulate your parents, and like those are the first people you want to be like. So if you see them, you grow up in the house that they take care of and own, and you learn like, from
conversations though, because I think to myself,
or education, or saving money, or anything like that. It was like.
But just because Nana was doing it doesn't mean she was having the conversation.
Right. And even with our parents, it's two different. Like, your mom coveted her job, and like my mom didn't have a job. So it's like they from the same generation, but your mom had the sight to be like, I'm going to keep a job, and I'm going to go to work every day. I'm going to show up every day. Where my mom was like, okay, I can be on welfare. I can live in a Section 8 house and just chill.
And let's also remember too that the change in government, and I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't know all the facts, but I know, like you said, during that generation was when those assistance programs were implemented, where our grandparents, they had to do it or face hard times, so they were forced. So maybe not to blame it on the government, but they were forced to work hard. They were forced to save. They were forced to move a little bit differently in life because they didn't
because of the 60s and the 70s and the Jim Crow and all the programs and all that stuff started to come. Now it's all this government assistance for black people, welfare
and Section 8 and all that kind of stuff. And then there has I've heard some conversations before, I don't know whether it was Dr. Umar or whomever, when they talk about the dissolution of black families, because you think about this, welfare, Section 8, all of that being introduced. But remember, one of the requirements for a woman is you couldn't make for so much money to get assistance. And if you had a man in your house, a double income, you couldn't get Section 8 if you had a man living.
Nope.
So you think about how this programmed people to think, oh, if I want help, I gotta be single. And it made women feel like it's okay to be single. It's okay to not have a man in the house and struggle and get government assistance.
That's
rather
trying
than
to eradicate the black man, but that's another story.
Well, and it's also the dissolution of black families. Because now if it's like, okay, have these babies and we'll help you, but don't have a man at home with you, then hey.
So do you think that our generation, our parents, knowingly brought curses to us? The stuff that we're breaking generational curses? Do you know, like, do you think that they knowingly knew that they wasn't supposed to be telling you shut the fuck up if you just got beaten, or if you came home from school crying, or you came home from school wanting to talk about your day, or it was like, shut up, I don't want to hear that? Like, that kind of little stuff gnawing at your confidence or your ego or your self-esteem, like, do you think they knew that?
No, I don't. And I think that's where we have to extend some grace, because we have to realize that, one, the saying, if they knew better, they do better. It's a hope. You would hope that if they knew better, they would do better. But it's no guarantee that they would have. And I think also for us, as much as you love Nana D's, as much as I love my Mimi, my Shirley girl, we have to realize too, they weren't the perfect parents either. So just like they didn't realize the trauma that they were imparting on their children, I would like to think they thought they were doing the best that they could. Now, at some points, they knew that they were making mistakes. Of course, you knew you were doing things that was mistakes. If you was in an abusive relationship and you're not leaving and you're letting your children experience that, that ain't right. But at the same time, in some warped kind of thinking, it may be, I'm going to stand by my man because, my mom used to tell us, she just always wanted us to be raised in a 2-parent home. And it's like, I get it. The illusion of it sounds good, but a 2-parent home under what conditions? Like, is that real? So it's like, does the end justify the means? So I don't think that they thought, I don't think that they purposely knew, like, I'm going to just be a crappy parent and just let the cookie crumble. How you say it?
Let the chips fall where they may.
Let the chips fall where they may. Let the chips
may.
Fall where they may. And the kids just going to come out, shuffle the dice and they come out how they come out. I don't think they knew that. I absolutely don't think they did. And I think, and it's a moment of transparency, I think I can speak for both of us. I think that's why we struggle with issues with our mothers, and they look at us like, how dare you have a problem with me? Like, I was a good mom. I was the best mom I could be. Because in their minds, they think to themselves, like, I ain't do nothing wrong. And not to say, like, we're holding it over your head like, oh, you were a crappy mom. But, in the mud of stuff,
in the moment
really
they thought they was making the best decision that they could.
Yeah, and I really believe
that's
that
where
they
I have
did.
a hard time struggling, because I don't think, and I guess it's just because of stuff that I saw. So it's not like you can play the, oh, I made a mistake type thing. Like, no, you intentionally did that.
Yeah, but you think to yourself, yeah, I intentionally did that. Did I do that knowing the downstream impact? No, they weren't doing this thinking, how is this going to affect my child at 15, at 25, at 45? No, they knew what I'm doing probably isn't the best thing to do in this moment. But when you say, do I think that they knew the curses? Curses to me implies that this is long term.
I say that because that's what that's the language we use today, is to say we're breaking generational curses. So obviously we call it curses. So what the curses that they brought to us is like, were they experiencing that as a child? Were their grandmother, like, do you know what Shirley's parents were like? What her dad and what her mom was like? Do you know if they was like good people or mean people? Like, was they spoke about in the family? So again,
nobody spoke about their parents.
I know they would hide the bad shit, but did they ever say anything good about them?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's more so about, I know my grandmom's father, he was a white gentleman. Or maybe
Shirley's dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe he was half, looking at him, he looked white. He might have been half white.
Could have been Lebanese. Just messing with you.
That was so random. And he was like a part, he was a part of this, like, bop band or something. It was all black men, and he was like the only white face. But yeah, and I mean, she spoke highly of him. They weren't in a relationship like her mother and father. So, you know, one of the things though that I find weird that my grandmom did, and she passed this mentality to my mom, and again, it didn't prove to be a good thing in terms of my parents. But my grandma had this thing about, like, you get married and you stand by your man, you stick to him no matter what. And I remember like having a conversation with my mom, and like, you know, after she and my dad split, where she kind of mentioned, like, you know, she had kind of learned that from her mom, that no matter what, divorce isn't an option. And it's like, like, I get it, but I don't get it depending on the scenario.
When you have these programs in place that where you figure the government is trying to break up families, the black family, like you said, and then you have this moral compass where your parent is telling you, listen, no matter what, ride it out and keep the family together. I can kind of see now being torn between that. Like, what the fuck should I do here?
Yeah, but I say it's odd because nobody. And I'm thinking back to, now, unless I know her parents weren't, I'll say they weren't together. I don't think they were ever married. But I know they weren't together. Her grandma, who was mama, who, you know, raised everybody, like I said, it wasn't no man in the house that I never heard of, like a grandpa. I heard of a couple names here and there, because, you know, I have a couple aunts that have different dads, like my grandmom's her sisters, so they have different dads and stuff. But some of my aunts, I don't know who their dads are. Like, I've just never heard them spoken of. So I say that to say there weren't any men in our family until my grandfather. So I don't know, I maybe her mom or grandmom instilled that in her head, like, you find you a good man, you hold him down. My grandpa was a veteran. He worked at the Philadelphia Gear Corporation in King of Prussia forever. Like, I think for like 35 years. Yeah, he got a watch. He was that's when I realized
so that means they made you retire. They're like, yo, you're good. Next Tuesday, your time's up.
Well, not in a funny way. They did make him retire because my grandfather was sick. He had epilepsy, and he had seizures, and he's an alcoholic recovering. He stopped drinking. I heard when I was born, because, you know, I was born. He wanted to be my good grandpa. But he used to still have seizures, and he used to hide at work. And he would come out of it or whatever. And then one time, he ain't come home, and they ain't know where he was. And they found him in the bathroom because he had a seizure. So, yeah, they did make him retire. I say that to say my grandpa, he had his issues, too. Like, some women, you know, dealing with a man who's an alcoholic. I know my mom has said, you know, there have been some experiences that weren't so great in her childhood because of his alcoholism.
Well, I'm sure there had to be some anger and some drunkenness there, yeah.
Yes, but my grandmom just had that mentality, you stand by your man. So maybe that came from her mom and grandmom, even though they didn't have, you know, a stable relationship.
So from her seeing everything that he might have put her through, and she's seeing, okay, she's still stuck with him, that made her think, no matter what I go through, I should do the same.
I guess.
Like you said, it's a warped way of thinking, but hey.
And that's, again, why I say, I think the ends doesn't justify the means, but in their mind, they had good intentions in some parts.
Yeah. If y'all out there, y'all know what y'all grandmothers and great-grandmothers was like when y'all was kids, I mean, that would be some fun stuff to share. A little story or something like that. You can put in the comments.
Wait, let me say this real quick. You know, one thing that I like to do, I've done it in small parts, family trees. If you that's really cool.
We talked about that, but sometimes you can fuck it up because some people don't want to take somebody's last name, or it just fucks it up.
Yeah.
Do you think, this is the last question pertaining to that, do you think as a kid, you're supposed to enjoy your 20s, and when you get in your late 20s, you're supposed to get serious about life when you hit 30? So they say, society says, right? That doesn't happen for everybody at that pace, but that's what society says. You enjoy your 20s, you get serious in your 30s, you know who you are in your 40s, you make the most money in your 50s, and then you enjoy your 60s. That's how it's supposed to go. So when the crack epidemic hit, our parents were like late 20s, early 30s. Do you think that being an epidemic that was never seen before totally fucked their train of thought up. Like having that drug come out at that time where they may have been on because we've seen a lot of people with great jobs in the hood where we was from, water departments and gas company jobs, and had their head on straight until this drug hit the street in our community, in our neighborhoods, and then derailed from there. And it's like a big portion of those people, a big group of those black people that got on crack are, this is the stats that we're talking about. Like, why didn't y'all achieve more? Why didn't y'all get more? Because crack was there and a good group of, like, I'm asking, I'm not saying
Right.
that
No,
is.
no, I hear you.
Because it was a large population of people from our culture on crack.
You know what?
And at that moment when it hit in the early 80s, that's when our parents were 27, 28, you know, like.
I understand. You know, for me, being a young child at that time, and you know how sometimes you can see something happening, but you don't really realize the full gravity of the situation until you kind of take a step back, or until it's over and you reflect on what went on. Like you said, we saw, like, I remember people who, you know, would have been good people in the community, a man going to work every day, taking
Cleaners
care of his kids,
owner, all the black owners that we had of stores and stuff in our neighborhoods, like, eventually they...
Really?
Yeah, like, I had a black cleaners across the street from me for as long as I lived there. That man got on crack when crack came in my neighborhood.
Really? I never knew that. I know who you're talking about, but I never knew, like, he was old. But this is what I will say. This is where I was going with it. It's like you don't realize the full gravity until, like, you're out of it and you kind of look back and you still are, like, hearing revelations about stuff. To me, it still is mind blowing. It's almost, and I'm not saying this in any funny way, it's like COVID. Like, the crack epidemic, and then we had the COVID pandemic, similar in nature, just, you know,
especially the way
one
it spreads.
being health related. But literally, it's one of those things where even now with COVID, like I talked about the impacts on society and stuff, like we're still realizing the impact. With crack, it still is like mind blowing to me how literally something came through and destroyed lives. Like, I remember a man, he had 3 kids. His kids sang on the Apollo before. They were amazing. They went to
somehow
church.
He got out.
And like, you just seen like his family go there. I will say to the people of that generation who never tried crack, you had to be a strong-willed person.
Yeah.
Because we saw so many people.
And when it first came out, it was a social thing. It was almost like drinking. It wasn't a bad thing. People didn't know it would take you to where it took you because it was like having a drink, like hanging out with your friends. You did a little freebase. It was not a big deal.
And that's what I was about to say. That's what I was about to say. While I do feel like you had to be very strong.
They thought it wasn't a big deal. I always thought it was a fucking big deal.
But we were out of that generation though. But where I say you had to be a very strong person not to have tried it, I don't think it means you're a weak person if you did, for that very fact. Like, I don't think anybody knew, a caveat to that, during that time, because this is 2021, and I will say even back 20 years ago, I know of people who were young, like maybe my age, a little bit older. So at that time, they were like between 20 and 30. I could never understand, after seeing what happened in the 80s and the 90s, you could think to yourself, I want to smoke crack.
Trauma.
I just never could.
Trauma.
Like, did you not see the evidence?
It's not even about seeing. It's they hurting and they want to get high and they want whatever that they feeling to go away. And I'm just saying, crack's a cheap drug. I get what you're saying, but go ahead.
So, not to say that people were weak during that time who tried it, because to your point, it was social. I don't think anybody knew the devastation that it would cause.
And how rapid it would be.
I mean, and I know it's TV, but if you watched Franklin, then you know that even the people who were selling it, and that's TV, but it was like based on some truth.
If you watch Snowfall.
Oh.
It's not called Franklin. That was the character in it his name was Franklin. The show is called Snowfall, y'all. Oh. So if you watch Snowfall, then you know who Franklin is. But there's no TV show called Franklin.
I thought it was called Franklin, sorry. But yeah, even like the people who were selling it, and again, that was a dramatization, but based on real life events, even they were astonished by like, and oh my God.
I saw it firsthand when it came through mine. I knew older people, mentors in my neighborhood that used to mentor boys in basketball. I'm not saying no names, but boys in basketball and do all kinds of camps. Eventually got on crack. Now, he did so much for the community that they still love him today. But I'm just saying that's a part of his story. Like, he fell to that too. I knew people that had water department jobs that was jackhammering every day and living a good life. And when that shit hit my neighborhood, in 4-6 weeks, they was walking up at 2 o'clock in the morning buying rocks out of their mind. Like,
our mailman.
Yeah, the mailman, our postal man for 20 years in our neighborhood. Same guy. Delivered everybody's mail on that block.
Everybody knew him.
And everybody knew him. Eventually, he got on crack and lost his job. But, you know, he had a government job where he got it back. But still, that's a part of their story where they didn't know that getting high this night would take them, that drug would take them down that road.
And so with that being said, I will say, again, those people who never tried it during that generation, I think they had to be very strong. Those people who did try it and then rebound and came back, shout out to y'all, because I've seen, like, my own eyes, people whose lives have been devastated. People who got clean, was probably clean for 10 years, and then you see them again, it's like, oh no, like that. I don't know. I've never done any drugs, that you know, anything. I never done anything but marijuana. I'll say that. I didn't even want to say that much, but that's my truth. I never done anything but marijuana. I don't know the effects of any other kind of drug, so I don't want to pretend that I personally know, but I've seen it enough to know, like, that's something hard. So shout out to those who are in recovery. Just keep doing your thing. We know some amazing people who are in recovery. So
and have been there for 30 years, and they shine like light.
Yes.
They shine like light. And
you think to yourself,
we're privileged to have resources and know people like that, because they walk a different path. When you see somebody like that, they walk a different path, and take that from somebody who smoked weed every hour of the day.
But so going back to your point, with crack and what was your original question?
Like, I'm sure the answer is yeah, because like I was saying, when you that age, say when we were 27, 28, it was like, okay, get your shit together, get yourself a steady job, and that's the thing you do. So when they were supposed to be thinking that, don't know if they was or wasn't, that's when crack hit. And again, they didn't know. They didn't have that information to know, oh, this white rock is going to make me lose my house and my family, and I'm going to hit rock bottom. They didn't know that then. And that's the thing with having information. All they knew was, oh, shit, it's a new drug. Let's get high this weekend. That could have scared a lot of the black community, because in our culture, a big portion of people
it stunted a lot of the community, because you have a lot of people, like we talked about, who were professionals at the top of their game. And it's sad, because when you think about it, like you said, it was a social drug. People were partying, having a good time. So you were kind of like in the in crowd doing your thing. I know you said it was a cheap drug, but you could afford it. But and it makes you think, was it set up that way to bring down and collapse the black community? I think about people like my mom, you know, to my knowledge, she ain't never tried no crack. But I think about people like her, who she wasn't a partier. Like, she didn't have like a social life. And you think, in hindsight, did that save her from that? Right. Because if she was in the mix during that time, would her life have been different? Who knows?
So again, we're talking about the generations, and I know there's some people out there who parents were from the baby boomer generation, and y'all parents were great. And shout out to y'all parents, because this doesn't mean everybody from the baby boomer generation had trauma or brought trauma or generational curses to their kids, because they didn't. And shout out to y'all who came up with great parents and stared y'all right and all that. Y'all was supposed to have that, so shout out to y'all. But we're speaking from experience, and there was just a lot of things that I think is wrong with kids, like not listening to kids, not saying I love you. If they disagree with you, you think it's a sign of disrespect. Not a lot of physical touch. And the biggest thing I didn't get to, and let's try to get through this quick and not spend a lot of time on it, but what was the thing with hiding predators in the family?
I think
what is that about? Do you think our grandmothers did that? Do you think their moms did that? Like, what is that where people know that being a pedophile is wrong? Like, it's the worst thing you could do to a child. And you could have a brother or an uncle or a cousin or a father be that way, and nobody screams to the top of their lungs that this is a problem. It's almost like, and I'm not saying just our culture, because I'm sure in all cultures it's probably done, but I'm speaking because this is my culture. And it's like, okay, why do we sweep that under the rug? Why is that a thing? Why is Uncle Pete still in the back room when we know he liked all the kids, but we still give him a Thanksgiving plate, or, you know, just keep him away from the kids? Why is it that stereotype?
I'm going to tell you why. Because of the wanting to have the illusion of a happy family, or not, maybe not happy, because happy is fleeting, to have a big family, a happy family, to have family gatherings, wanting to have that illusion, people sacrifice, because they know that once something like that is exposed, it immediately causes dysfunction, divide, it breaks down relationships, and people are afraid of confrontation. And let me finish. And I'm not saying it's right at all, but you think about, in a moment of transparency, I'll say for myself, being a victim of child sexual abuse, I remember vividly as a kid, like, I remember thinking to myself, if I say this, this is gonna happen, and these people won't have a dad. Or if I say this, this person is going to be upset, and this person's sister will be mad at them. Why, as a kid, is my mind, why would I even think about that? Because this is kind of like the and don't get me wrong, nobody has ever sat me down and said
this, and that's the part where I push back at. I'm sorry to cut you off, but you're taught as a kid, okay, don't let nobody touch your pocketbook. Nobody. You come tell your parents. When anybody, you come tell somebody. And then you're taught that in school to a certain degree. If somebody touch you in school, a older kid or a teacher, come tell somebody. So you as a kid know that that's wrong. So all I'm saying, I'm not trying to blame you. I'm just saying, what makes you conditioned to think that? I
don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. And school is different. That's separate. I'm talking about in families. And I'll say this also. I have a cousin who was also a victim of sexual abuse, and she told me out her mouth that she never said anything. And this is two separate situations, us having never discussed it until it was discussed. But me knowing what was in my head, her telling me the same thing, why she had never said something, because she didn't want somebody to be upset at her because of, this family member has to go away. And again, this is nothing I can say with all honesty. Nobody's ever sat me down and said, you can't say anything about this because this will happen.
So you never reflected on it when you got older to think, like, what made you not?
Of course, I just don't know the answer.
Oh. Like, what makes a person not think of them and think of, okay, I'm thinking of my cousin not having a dad?
Because you're talking about kids. I'm not talking about an adult who's been raped. I mean, even though that's a different conversation, we're talking about kids. Why? No clue why. But I think your mind goes into, like, and this is the sad part, no matter how I don't want to say no matter, but families are dysfunctional, but there's still some form of love, a thread of love through that. And you love your loved ones, you love your family, and the thought of people being hurt should not supersede your own protection and your own feelings of being hurt. But for whatever reason, I don't know, we ain't got to that part in therapy yet. It happens. So I say that to say it's generational, and I don't think it's something that's always said, but for whatever reason, in some families, it's kind of like threaded through, and people do that, like, to protect the family unit rather than protecting the individual that's harmed. And that's where it also comes into breaking generational curses, because that ain't going down no more in our family.
Right. And it's like, that's a curse that was brought onto us. And it's like, okay, that, I don't know, I just look at it so surgical. Like, this person did this. Everybody know that this is wrong. You getting the fuck out the family, and the family going back to what it used to be.
But can I say this to you respectfully?
And whoever
you've never encountered it,
I understand.
And I'm not saying as far as being abused, but even up close and personal, or at least you're not aware of. So it's so easy for people to say how it should be handled. And not saying you're wrong. That's absolutely how it should be handled. But it's so easy for people to say, like, and it does. It sounds confusing. It sounds crazy.
Next to murder, it's the worst thing you could do to somebody. Is to take their innocence like that, whether you're an adult or a child. So it's like, this is a mortal sin. Who the fuck disagrees? And whoever disagrees or not on board with this, then you get the fuck out too.
But that's the thing. I don't think anybody is disagreeing that it's a bad thing. I think I think everybody knows that it's bad. Nobody's thinking that it's good. I think it's the fear of,
embarrassment
on the family. What impact is it going to have on the family? People, and I'm not saying everybody thinks of all these things, but are we going to have to go to court? Who got lawyer money? Like, I think there's a lot of thoughts that come into people's head that shouldn't. It should be calling cops. This is how this is gonna go down. Whatever happens from here happens. But there's a lot of things, a lot of thoughts that go into place. So I don't think anybody's saying, "Oh, don't say nothing," or keep it to yourself, because there ain't nothing wrong with that. I think everybody knows, and that's why it's such a kept secret, because everybody knows there's something wrong with it.
Right. But it's like you're being complacent in the situation when you, I don't know. And you're right. I haven't been confronted with it head on or experienced it where it's like I was the voice that had to speak up, and I've always said that, and I stopped saying that when I used to say, like, if I was a kid nobody would have been able to touch me, because that's insensitive to say, because I've never experienced that, and I don't know what the fear or how I would have felt after something like that. But like, it's, I don't know, it's just crazy how that kind of shit happens in the black family. If y'all could answer that question, why do the black culture and the family hide predators? If y'all could answer that would be great in the comments. Why is it in the black family we hide predators? What's up with that? Why does Uncle Pete still get a plate when we know we got to keep him away from the kids? What the fuck is that about?
And again, I hear what you're saying. I know we can only speak from the black perspective, but I really think that, unfortunately, I think that's a societal thing, because we watch shows like not First 48, like Intervention, where you hear this girl, and I always tell her, man, how many times have I been right? I probably got like a 90% success rate, where you hear a girl's story, and they start from where she is currently, and then they go back to the beginning, and I'm like, this girl been raped. This girl been, you kind of know, like, when you just see how somebody's moving in life, and maybe it comes from a personal place where it's like, I can see this hurt in her.
Right.
This is why she's on heroin, or this is why she's out here smoking crack. And I hate, like, it ain't a good thing, but I know. So we see that, and that's across all cultures. Also, another place we see it where it's one of the biggest kept secrets. Look at the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
So I think, unfortunately, it's a societal thing.
Yeah, so answer that for me. Why does, in our culture, and I'm just speaking to our culture, we ain't got to speak about other cultures right now, speak about our culture, but why do we hide the predator in the family? Some comments would be great on that. And you're right, because that brings me to my beef. And my beef is senior Sony exec loses job after being exposed in a pedophile sting operation. George, say that last name.
Cacioppo?
George Cacioppo, 64 years old, was going to meet with a 15-year-old boy at 4:30 in the morning. He come outside with a PS5 t-shirt on, ready to meet a 15-year-old boy. Didn't know it was a grown man there on some To Catch a Predator type thing. He was in a sting, and the cameraman said to him, what you come outside for? You think he was going to meet the 15-year-old? And it was a grown man. And he turned around and went in the house, and the dude started to scream, yo, this is the guy who was an exec at Sony. He was trying to meet a 15-year-old boy at 4:30 in the morning. So that's my beef, along with people hiding predators. Like, what the fuck is we still doing this? This guy works at Sony. He's an exec at Sony. White guy, obviously, so it's a different culture. But he's trying to meet a 15-year-old at 4:30 in the morning. Like, leave kids alone. Like, just leave fucking kids alone. You don't know what you're doing to kids when you're taking their innocence like this. It's just leave kids alone. Leave kids the fuck alone. And you should be skinned. Like, you should be took somewhere, and the skin should be taken off your body. Anybody who touched kids. So that's my beef.
And you know, the fact that you say he works at Sony, just to let you know, we have former presidents of the United States, the highest position in the country, who were visitors of Jeffrey Epstein's island with underage girls. Mm-hmm. So working at Sony, working at wherever the hell, no matter what the company is, no matter what your level, the odds of hiding it because you have more money probably. But I mean, it is our society is permeated with pedophiles.
That's why I'm glad that Apple is doing a thing with the iPhone where they're just going to randomly do a search of people's phones. You ain't even going to know about it to see who has child porn in their phone. So that's a good thing. I want them to do some shit like that. Like, invade everybody's privacy to do that. And whoever the shit pops up on, lock their ass up and let's get them going for a skinning.
A skinning.
Yep. You got a beef?
My beef. I'm going to just circle back to the healthcare system in America. I told you a little bit about my experience. One of the things that I want to say, you know, COVID, we're still in it. It ain't going nowhere. We're now on the... What's the variant we got now?
Omarion.
We on the Omarion.
And Fitch.
No, to be serious, the Omicron variant. We are so it's not going anywhere. It's going to keep mutating, whatever it's doing. I pray that everyone stays healthy. However, our healthcare system needs to take a step back. There was a study done that shows that there have been so many people, and I'm not going to say numbers incorrectly because I don't know the data off the top of my head, but so many people who have been in hospitals throughout the pandemic who have not done well. So they've had major surgeries. They couldn't have visits by their family. They've just been in the hospital for other issues. Nobody could see them. So that you know, touch Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you've ever taken a psychology class, it will talk to you about what we need as a person. I know that healthcare professionals, nurses and things like that are there to care for you, but they're being overwhelmed. So they can't give that love and care and affection that your family members can if they're visiting you. Also, healthcare professionals themselves, some doctors have said they do not agree. They no longer agree that families should be separate. Of course, there needs to be some parameters. I don't know if they want to say people need to be vaccinated. I don't know. There does have to be some parameters in place. You just can't have a revolving door of people coming in and out because you do need to keep our most vulnerable people being unhealthy at that time. You need to keep them safe. But I think hospital administrators really need to take a step back and look at the human element at some of the rules and policies that they're implementing. Mm-hmm. Having people come to the hospital in their most vulnerable moments, not being healthy, you know, not feeling them best selves. I shouldn't have to have dementia in order to have a loved one by my side at a time where I don't feel well. I'm scared. My blood pressure was through the roof. My blood pressure is usually typically a little low. And I know it was because of me being nervous. Like, I don't have no issues with blood pressure, but, you know, they really need to take all these things into consideration. So our healthcare system, we do need to take care of people. COVID isn't going anywhere, but we need to reevaluate and see how we're handling things and not worsening it for people because of, you know, just rules and policies that don't make sense. So that's my beef.
Damn, talk your shit. That's a good beef. 3 grams. Let's get through these grams.
When you say 3 grams, I always think about drugs. I don't know why.
So do I.
Okay.
Former NFL player Glenn Foster dies in police custody in Alabama.
Wow.
Now, he got arrested, and they said he was being belligerent, fighting with the cops, and resisting arrest, had an assault on a police officer and fucked his hand and his throat up, and he died in their custody.
So when you say former, like, how old was he?
Probably late 30s, early 40s.
That's sad. Rest in peace, Mr. Foster.
Years ago, but how can that be so obvious? Like, why would they put that in the thing that he was belligerent, he was beating up the officers, almost justifying that we killed this nigga. When we got him in the back in the tombs, we beat that ass because he fucked the cop hand up and he fucked his throat up and he was resisting arrest and he had another assault and he wasn't listening. So we writing all that in the story to kind of point to why he's dead.
I think they're trying to rationalize their abuse of power. And, you know, in this day and age, who knows? It may work for them because they'll say,
in Alabama,
you know, this is why we beat him. This is why we hit him. This is why. So they're letting you, like, the facts are the facts. He's dead. So now they have to tell all this other stuff. He's dead. He was in our custody. You know that. So let me give you the information you don't know. To us, it's like, okay, he still shouldn't be beat to death. But in their minds, they think, you resisted. Like, I see people commenting that all the time. Don't resist the cops and you won't be beat. Like, no, that it shouldn't work like that. Like, you shouldn't resist the cops. But the cops shouldn't beat me if I do. There should be other measures
taken. When they take you out your car and tell you to lay down in the rain on your stomach, then you say, don't resist the cops. Because see if you'll do that. When you say to somebody, don't resist the cops. Like, it's not like people just resist the cops. Sometimes it's the cops doing some out-the-box shit.
Or like the cops dragging the man out the car that was a paraplegic who couldn't walk.
With a wheelchair in the back. Like, you think... I mean,
I
know people... like, people do some schemy shit to sell drugs and do crimes, but we're going to get a wheelchair and put that in the back? And we're going to have these controls put in the car for paralyzed people?
Yeah, you know he had to have controls to not...
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to put all that in the car and we're going to act like we paralyzed, but we able-bodied. Just to go do what we got to do. Like, come on. You like she said, a human element to shit. What was that?
That was the first gram.
Second gram. And I'd like to get through these quick. Tristan Thompson. And again, I don't care where he sticks his penis at, but he seems like he loves Chloe. He seems like he always wants to be with her. But man, is he always having babies by somebody else. And it's just, look, if that's what you want to do, bro, do your thing. But you seem to love this girl. You seem to want her. You have a baby with her. Like, y'all seem to always find your way back together. But man, you always having babies by somebody else.
It should no longer be in his hands.
What is it?
Because he loves her. I hope that at some point Chloe loves herself enough to know this kind of love you can do without. Like, you hurt me once, you hurt me twice, you hurt me three babies. I think this is number 3.
I don't even know. I'm just saying his name pops up a lot about him having outside kids,
and
but
he
also pops up with him like getting back together with Chloe. So he always seems to find his way back to the one he loved.
He can't find his way back to her without her accepting him, and that's what I'm saying. That's
why the fuck you keep doing that to her, bro?
But not only that, why are you raw dogging these women?
I don't know.
I hope that you're making them take STD tests before, or they're making you take STD tests.
When I hear his name, I think of Deshaun Watson, who got 31 massages by has 31 assaults by women who all were massage therapists.
Oh, wow.
That's a bit excessive. I think about Darren Sharper, dude who
handsome.
looks good, handsome guy, rich as fuck,
and a rapist.
And you raped 14 women in like 9 states. That's some crazy shit.
That's when you have a mental disorder.
Yeah, I think it's like, I don't know what's wrong, but damn, Tristan, like, you seem to love your girl.
No, that's no mistake. These ain't rape cases against Tristan, but at the same time, stop coming in these ladies.
Yeah, and let's move on.
Oh, yeah.
Plumber found $600,000 in the wall of Joel Osteen church, mega church. And they said Joel Osteen ain't even thank him yet.
I know. That's shady.
But apparently, he found 600 envelopes with $1,000 a piece in them.
Yeah, cash or check.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think, you know what? When you
Are they offerings?
I don't know, but you don't listen. When you told me
Can he hold his service and stipulate the offer's gonna be $1,000 a night?
Just listen to me. You remember when, like, I know you do construction, and I think it was here in the house when you was fixing something. But you know how sometimes people put stuff in the walls and stuff. It made me think, Just go with me. I don't know. Because it was a specific amount. Note to your question, most churches don't stipulate a specific amount. But because it was a specific amount, some churches do strange things, like strange rituals where they may say, let's say if that was a new wing of the church or something, let's bless this building by planting this seed, as they refer to it as in church. Plant a seed. Let's bless this building by planting this seed. And, we'll leave it here for who knows how long the envelopes will be there. Wait, I'm not finished. By planting this seed. And they may have put it in the wall purposely. Only because, one, if there wasn't like a slot found in the wall, two, they were it was all for $1,000. It just makes me think like maybe it was something weird like that.
Bullshit. I'm calling bullshit.
So what do you think it was?
I think it was him hiding money. And I think he makes so much millions of dollars that he lost $600,000. Like, that ain't no goddamn put this in the wall for a blessing. Like, that dude make like $50 million a year.
So you think
I think he hid it from his damn self. No. Or somebody tried to steal it and hid it.
That's what I was going to say. Maybe not him. What if somebody, you think about this.
And how can somebody has to clear something to do construction in the church? How do you close up $500,000 in a wall?
That's why I'm saying maybe they did it purposely. But you got to think about this too. Checks. If you write $1,000 check, right? And it's never cash, you're going to tell the church like,
get that money?
I wrote this check. You didn't cash it. And I don't know what the breakdown was. It was 600 envelopes. I don't know. It was half. 300 was cash. 300 was checks. So what the breakdown was. But even if you got, let's say, 100 out of 600, people saying, I wrote $1,000 check. Nobody ever cashed it. Like, is everything okay? You would think to somebody it would be like something is going on. Like, so that's what makes me think that maybe it was on purpose. That they didn't cash it. It was something, a church saying, "Oh, plant a seed, and the money will make the church grow."
And plant a pile of bullshit. That's what they did. That's a pile of bullshit. I don't know how you lose $600,000 and still function.
I don't think it was lost.
You still functioning in the church. The church always need an offering. I'm sure they passing them plates around.
But you also got to think this is a mega church. You're talking about 600 envelopes. That probably was from one Sunday.
I understand that.
Probably a year ago. So they ain't
and what I'm saying is he out there in the South in Texas and all that shit. Can he do some shady shit like I'm putting on a service tonight for my rich Texas friends and I'm letting them all know the offerings is $1,000 and up?
Churches
can he do shit like that where he invite, I don't know, 400 people that he know that's fucking oilsmen and all that shit, and then they know coming in the night you got to leave $1,000.
Churches can do whatever they want.
Listen, man, look.
Like, churches can have a specific service, or they can have like it could be a charity dinner or something like that. Like, churches can do whatever they want.
That's some bullshit.
Businesses can do whatever they want, and basically church is a business.
That's some bullshit, I think. It's good talk, though. Wrapping it up.
We got on merch.
We getting new merch, but wait till you see this new merch I got. I'm gonna be the prototype, and then A2TP.
And who else?
What?
We're gonna be the prototype.
You want to be a prototype?
I would like to.
Oh, A2TP.com. Go check it out. Check us out on Spotify. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Google Podcasts. Check us out on Anchor, and check us out on Breaker. If you fuck with us, you fuck with us. If you don't, you should. Peace.